Okay, it is time to wrap up Uac Fail at last. And this is the last secret level, map 93. So, it's a short map, but it has some pretty decent rewards, including a super shotgun. There's not too many enemies here, only 15 enemies, but most of those enemies are kind of tough. And you might want to check out the exit area, because there is a line def that lowers this teleporter, and you might want to get inside this little building as soon as you can, because otherwise you're being forced to fight a cyber demon outside, or you might get hurt quite bad. So it could be dangerous, but these ledges will contain some pickups, and you might want to go over here. And this is where you would get the SSG secret open. So there's that switch that I just pressed. It will reveal a secret near the start of the level. So you might want to go over here, and there you go. Super shotgun and the grenade launcher. And this is the only level of Uac Fail where you can find a super shotgun from. And apparently for some reason I was just wandering around, and now it's time to fight the last cyber demon of Uac Fail. So this fight could be somewhat challenging depending on how you handle it, but the more you move, the better. So, and of course, the more faster you are. So that's obviously going to make the cyber demon fight a whole lot easier. But here I was collecting some small cells and all that. So, but now we finally do have the super shotgun, and this is the only level of Uac Fail where you can find a super shotgun from. And for some reason I decided to take this area, or actually there was a good reason, because there are 2 enemies still remaining, because there are 2 barons inside this room, so they can be somewhat tricky to deal with, because they tend to usually hang around inside that room. They rarely come out, and it can be somewhat challenging to get rid of them, but the better weapons you have, the easier it will be. And of course there's the BFG. But that's the end of map 93. But I guess we can probably talk about Uac Fail as a whole a little bit at some point during this video, because you can clearly see what's happening on the screen and everything. So, but I think for most of the part, Uac Fail, I guess I succeeded at least filling my own personal goals with this megawatt. I wanted most of the levels to be short, just so that, they don't get too boring, because one problem with Doom 1/ the Ultimate Doom is that you got a fairly limited monster roster at your disposal, and it can get somewhat boring, and we all probably know how boring it is to single shotgun, say, demons, cacodemons, barons of hell, hell knights. It gets really boring really fast, and of course, because we all know Doom 2 by now, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to keep the map short, but yet so that some of the later levels would pack some challenge. And one of the trickier secrets can be found from here. You can see me shooting at this lamp right there. It will reveal 2 different secrets. The other secret is a little bit further away, but in case you wonder why those pain elementals aren't spitting any lost souls, because the lost soul limit has been reached for this level for the time being, so it is not possible for the pain elementals to release any lost souls. And as you can tell, it is pretty crowded here, and in fact this is by far the most crowded level of Uac Fail. This map has a total of 273 monsters, which is by far the highest number up to this point, but of course there are some Fallen Earth levels that will top even this level, at least when it comes to the sheer amount of monsters to be found from a single level. And there's a good damage, and a grenade launcher. So this is the last opportunity for you to find the grenade launcher in Uac Fail. And in here, you can find this secret, where the Lost Soul is at. This is one of the secrets that was opened by shooting at that torch or lamp. And this secret can be somewhat tricky because there's no clear indication aside from the blinking light, and that Nightmare Imp, he insisted that he wanted to tag that secret, but too bad for him. It doesn't really work that way in Doom, so it is wasn't really his day. This part can be somewhat challenging too because there's not too much space and there are certain demons around. It can be a little bit hard to see them and everything, so. But this area will eventually lead to the yellow key. And the first version of MAP30, it used to have the burning sky texture, just like Threshold of Pain did. But I thought that, well, maybe it's a little bit too obvious, because Uac Fail has been kind of... I guess it's probably the most loyal out of all three, or the two campaigns that we have released so far. It's probably the most loyal to the original PlayStation Doom-like design choices. So, for example, the episodic structure of levels can be clearly seen. For example, the transitions between episodes are way more easier. So, for example, if you say beat map number 8 and then you enter map number 9, map number 9 is really easy. But that's not the case with Fallen Earth and everything, so... But from here we can find the yellow key eventually, after taking down some Hell Knights and Pinkies. But a few words about this map itself. I think this is probably one of the best maps I think I've made for Uac Fail, at least. Not sure about PDR as a whole, but I like this map very much. And also I wanted to change the music track to something else, because initially this map was using music track 13, which is the kind of default music track of Threshold of Pain. So I thought that, okay, well, maybe if I could change that and, you know, give it a little bit of a different context and all that. The teleporter that you see over there is a backtrack teleporter. It will take you to very close to the blue door. So if you want to avoid those certain crushers that we will be seeing very shortly, but at this point I was wandering around inside these tunnels, and in here we got some pain elementals, and apparently the Lost Soul limit has now been... It's no longer being applied, so now those pain elementals can't spawn these Lost Souls again. But these two are nothing compared to what's to come in terms of pain elementals. And these crushers can be found from here. And these are the type of crushers that they will kill you once you get under them. So they will slowly crush you to death, or so. And some final minute drama too, in forms of imps. And yet another secret can be found from here. And from here you can find some shells and a computer auto map. And this map, I think, as a whole, it requires some backtracking at times, but it should be pretty decently well interconnected still. So in here, you have to make the run to the red door, so don't stop. And there you go. That's how you make the run towards the yellow door. And apparently here I was collecting some health bonuses. This can be somewhat tricky to get because you don't want to run too slowly, and you don't want to stop. So it is just, you just have to keep going. And that Spectre, he picked a little bit of a too big of a target for his own good. And in here you can see a pain elemental, and behind that pain elemental is a door that opens, and it will take you to the blue door. So it's again one of those things that kind of interconnects the level a little bit better. And this switch will lower certain walls around, allowing you to access this blue key area from the courtyard that you had to make that kind of a big run to the yellow door. The Lost Soul was pretty aggressive. He apparently had some Doom 64 genes, because he was quite aggressive one. And it was at this point where I got slightly into trouble, but I did make a decent recovery. And I recall, not sure if I even might have gone for the Megasphere, which I think in this case would probably be a good decision anyway. So at this point I just went through this area, and then I probably must have used the backtrack teleporter. And as you can tell, there are plenty of monsters around this level. And I must have taken the Megasphere, because I cannot really think of anything else. There might have been that Berserk pack, but I don't remember if I took it already. Yeah, clearly. It's a Megasphere, but it's a good choice. And after this I went to another area where it's more of an optional area with a rocket launcher, and then there was, I think there might have been a soul sphere as well. So, and in order to reach that area, you must use the teleporter down there. And I think it must have been at this point where I was just kind of dumb, and I yeah, because I just could have jumped down, because there was the switch near the blue key area where I used the switch, and that switch lowers a certain wall, allowing you to access that teleporter from the courtyard without having to make that epic run towards the yellow door. So I kind of missed that. And in here you can get the soul sphere, and there was a switch behind that soul sphere, and that takes you to let me think. Yeah, it takes you to the earlier half of the level, and I think it must be at this point when I am going for that soul sphere. So yeah, it takes you over here. So it's a nice little interconnected thing. So at this point, the kind of first half of the level started to be clear. I did have the blue key, and this is a bit of a teaser towards the final fight. So a huge horde of Hell Knights, but it isn't anything severe. You can just pick them off one by one with a GL. And at this time, I was apparently getting some final minute rockets, and then I must have lowered this thing, which takes you to the final fight, and then I went for the last quad damage. And there was a reason why I didn't use that quad damage, because I wanted to spare it to the final fight room. So it's a bit of a long distance to backtrack around this level, but once you know the layout, it shouldn't be too difficult. And of course, if you have the automap at your disposal, or the computer automap power-up, it should be even more easy. So, but I have to say that I've been up to this point quite positive about Uac Fail as a whole. I think it kind of... My first reaction when I finished it, I think it must have been like a year ago, where all of the maps were finished and it was just polishing and everything after that. I thought that maybe it wasn't really that great, but I kind of have grown to like Uac Fail quite a lot. And I think I personally at least succeeded filling most of my goals with this episode. But the thing around this final fight area is that you need to use these green torches. You can see those blinking sectors. Well, not with this, not when you have this power up, but you can see those green torches. Once you walk near them, there will be an extra segment of Hell Knights opening up every time. So an extra segment of Hell Knights is being revealed. And also, that way you can reveal the exit of the level. So just keep walking around, and now you can see this horde of Hell Knights being revealed. But there are plenty of power-ups, plenty of ammo, and most importantly, a ton of space to move around. But you might still want to be careful, because those pain elementals can sometimes harass you and make using rocket weapons slightly more challenging and everything. So here I went for another quad damage. And I think I was using a chain gun around this part, because chain gun is pretty decent against, because it stuns those pain elementals and you can just keep circle strafing around. It isn't like terribly difficult. And this has a pretty strong threshold of pain wipe with this final area. Despite it, I guess in a way it doesn't really like resemble the original final fight area like too extensively. Even it does share mostly the same textures, but it has some stuff of its own still. Like the insane amount of space. Here I just wasted a couple of good seconds of my quad damage because I tried to BFG everything, but it didn't work. And but there were still plenty of Hell Knights remaining, and the reason I didn't use GL too much here was simply because of the rate of fire, because it's kind of a slow weapon, and when you have a quad damage, you want to have a weapon that has a pretty fast rate of fire. You don't want to have those, weapons that fires once in 10 years. You don't want to have weapons like that. But of course it kind of depends on the case. Of course, if you're dealing with a horde of, say, barons, of course you want to BFG them with quad damage if you do have the opportunity. But grenade launcher is probably one of those weapons which is not probably that great with quad damage, but it doesn't really matter because the weapon itself is so powerful that it can take out even the most powerful enemies in the game. Take them out relatively easily. And I think that's the last Hell Knight. And that's where the exit is, and that's the end of Uac Fail. And up next, it's Fallen Earth. And yeah, as I said, personally I think I've managed to fill most of my goals with Uac Fail as a mapper, and I think it's a pretty decent episode, at least by my standards. But here is the final story screen of Uac Fail. and everything, so this is kind of implying that it was all just a big little plot once again. You were doing this, and then, you know, some stuff happens elsewhere, blah blah blah, and all that. So up next is episode, the second episode, or slash Doom 2. It's Fallen Earth by RockHardGamer45. I will probably change my approach a little bit with Fallen Earth because the levels tend to be a lot longer than they are with Uac Fail. But thanks for the company, and see you around.